Hello and welcome back to another episode of Jpod, Jefferson School District's very own podcast. I'm your host, Superintendent Brad Kavener, and once again, joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Chris Shaw and Becca Mallory. Good morning, guys. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good
Doing
morning.
well.
Good. Happy New Year to you both.
I can't believe it's 2024 already.
I know. It has kind of a nice ring though, right? 24.
It does.
I like it better than 23 already.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the Chinese New Year of the Dragon. I was born in the Year of the Dragon, so I'm hoping for a good year.
No, that sounds right, and that's pretty auspicious, right? Because Year of the Dragon that's supposed to be a pretty cool.
It's supposed to be a lucky year.
Lucky year. Oh, good. We need luck. Great. Well, any plans or resolutions or do you guys do that?
I don't anymore. I used to, and then it was just a letdown. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. And then it's like by February, March, you're like, I quit.
Yeah.
My resolution every year is to stop smoking. And I don't smoke, so.
Oh, I see. I was going to say, I didn't think you smoked.
That's a great resolution. You're successful already.
Yeah,
That's right.
Always be a success. Yeah. I could say I'm never going to, I'm not going to lose weight this year.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be my new
I'm
resolution.
not going to do that. I'm just going to focus on feeling good, feeling healthy.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, anyway, on a more scholarly New Year's resolution idea, mine is to widen our outreach to our community and share all the great things that's happening in schools. It's one of my New Year's resolutions. And as I visit our schools, I'm always so impressed with what I see.
Agreed.
Jefferson is a great place to send your children. I hear that from parents every year. I remember, in fact, last year when I was doing one of my Coffee with Kavener meetings at the local coffee shop, a couple of parents had moved from another state, and they wanted to come talk to me and tell me about how they loved our school.
Oh, that's good.
And how different it was being here than in their former, they were in a big district. And I think just the thing that what we do well here is that small, like that family.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
The relationships, kids are well cared for, and you're not just a number. And I think these folks anyway were really happy with schools, and so I was like, we're doing lots of really wonderful things here, and I think we need to celebrate that.
I agree.
And so often it's hard for people to find out what is actually happening at schools because, and my daughter goes to South Salem, and other than like their parent squares that come out, I don't really know what is actually happening.
It's like a mystery, right?
It is like a mystery.
It should be a mystery, but it sometimes is.
Yeah, I even work in schools, and I understand how they work, but I still don't really know what all is happening at my daughter's school.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of as we know, and as I say every week, the reason that we have this podcast, one of the to build that communication stream with our community so people can know exactly what's going on.
Right.
That's
It's important because you send your kids here every day, 5 days a week, right? We spend so much time, these teachers and principals, they spend so much time with these kids getting to know them that as a parent, you want to know what's happening because you don't want it to be a closed door. Your kid come home and tell you all these crazy things happening in school. You want to know what's going on ahead of time, or you want to know what's going on in real time. And I think that having this open communication setting is helpful for these parents.
I would agree. I think you try the newsletters, you try the the web postings and stuff, and those are okay. They're worth doing as long as people are going on and reading. But it's just everyone has busy lives, and so one of the ideas about having this podcast is people can listen to it on their way to work or whenever it suits them, and they go, oh, okay, about food service or about FFA or about the cheer squad or all the different ones that we've been doing. They can just learn about what's going on with our kids this
and I'm sure other parents are just as guilty as me. I have so many emails that come in every day that I'm like, oh, it's a message from the school is my daughter in trouble? No. Okay. I don't need to read through this.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Well, and I have to admit, here I'm a superintendent, but for my kid in his school,
Yes.
it's like in these emails that come up, I'm like, yeah, I'll get to this later, or I read the first couple lines, and if it doesn't say your kid's in trouble, I'm good,
Yes.
But yeah, I think we're all kind of guilty of that. So anyway, we're trying to provide different ways for our community to get to know us, and this is one. But another way that we're trying to really tell our story is through a marketing.
Yeah.
And today's topic is really just about letting you guys know, everybody out there listening, what our marketing campaign is and why we're doing it. So just to go back a moment, our first campaign, if folks remember, was called Jefferson Connected. And this was a great campaign, especially because it happened during the pandemic. We created the campaign right before the pandemic, but it was all about staying connected to one another during a really challenging time.
Yeah.
And so it lended itself to, our purpose, how we were going to stay connected. And Chris, you were putting together those videos and we were sharing them out.
Those were so much fun.
I had a lot of fun doing the videos.
I remember the first time you asked me to join.
WSB.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You are famous over there. I remember the first time you asked me to join you, and I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Then I was like, well, I'm with a famous company, so it's okay.
Right. Well, it was great. But that time now that we have gone beyond the pandemic, really pretty rough times.
Oh, yes.
And we are now in a new age, a new time, and it calls for a new campaign.
Yeah.
And so our campaign now is called Jefferson on the Move.
I'm really excited about this one.
I am too. I think Jefferson on the Move just says it right, because we are on the move. And so much of what we're doing is really geared toward our new mission vision statement, which is really looking at that 21st century learning, the skills that kids need,
Yeah.
and preparing our kids for the future of education, of the world, of where we're heading.
Yeah.
And we need to start talking about that. What are the changes? What will our kids need coming out of school today? And how are we adapting and changing in order to meet their needs and prepare them?
And I really think it kind of speaks to, we're no longer stuck in this pandemic mindset. And we are moving forward. We're on the move. We're going to the next step.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about Jefferson on the Move, and I'm excited about our campaign to share the word and what we're doing. So let's talk about some of the things that we're doing as a district. There's so much, actually, there's too much to put in 20 minutes. And we've already used up probably half of our time.
Yeah, thereabout.
So kind of maybe we'll continue this in another podcast. But we have literacy is a major goal for us. We actually had a podcast on a couple of them.
Yeah.
So you can go back, listeners, if you're interested in learning more, you can go back and listen to any of these podcasts. And literacy, though, remember that we are at the forefront of this discussion and leading the state in literacy, because not so much our scores yet, but we're laying the foundations for the state, in that we have our entire staff of our elementary school getting that letters training, which is because they'll be experts in literacy, all K-5 grades. And that means that a fifth grade teacher can know how to teach reading. And you would think, well, they all do, but they don't, right? I mean, it's the kindergarten, first, second grade is really those guys that are learning how to, or teaching how to read.
Right.
And then the third, fourth, and fifth or more, they've already learned the read. Now let's take them and
learning or reading to learn.
Reading to learn,
yeah.
Right? And so now, though, everyone's going to be an expert. So that's a great. I mean, not every school does that. I mean, that's a really remarkable thing that all of our teachers have bought into.
I love it. I love the dedication and commitment that they put into this, because it's definitely, these are college level courses that they're taking while they are teaching full time. And I remember being a full-time college student and teaching full-time. It's a lot of work. So the fact that we have all of our classroom teachers in the elementary school doing this and dedicating themselves to this, that's amazing. Hands down to them for that, for sure.
It is. And you're not going to get that in districts around us. You're not going to go to Salem or
Right.
I shouldn't probably say all these different districts, but you're not going to go to any of these school districts and get this kind of level of literacy instruction and support from schools. I mean, it's very rare to have what it is we have.
Yeah.
And so that's a highlight that we need to make
Reading
sure people know.
is such a foundational skill needed for all levels of education and being able to learn. I predict that our kindergarten kids who get this from the very beginning going forward, when they graduate high school, they're going to be some of the top academics in the state of Oregon.
I think so too. And remember our libraries. 6 years ago, when I started here, the library at the elementary school was a storage room.
Yeah.
There wasn't even being used. And last year we checked out 10,000 books.
It's amazing. Mrs. Gonzalez over there has been doing some great work and getting these kids the huge love of reading. And I love walking in there, and her passion just explains why she's a librarian. It's amazing.
It's been transformed, really. And kids love reading, and they have so many great opportunities to get some really good books in their hands, which then really supports that whole literacy effort, which is great. Also, remember our high school.
That's true. Yeah.
We just completely revised their library.
That looks amazing.
Yes. It's amazing. And now kids are actually going in there and hanging out, checking out books. Whereas before, I think maybe they checked out 1 or 2 books before we did the renovation in a whole year.
Wow.
And it's great that we finally have cleaned up our book inventory and gotten rid of old books that aren't relevant to students anymore and gotten in new materials that they enjoy and want to read.
Yeah, I remember looking at some of the high school books that were like from the 50s.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, wow. I mean, it's like a museum piece.
Right.
You know?
Which is great, but not ultimately what we want in our libraries and schools.
And our kids aren't necessarily wanting to check them out.
Right.
So,
right.
So now we have something that's a little bit more fun. Percy Jackson, something that's relevant.
Yeah.
The kids are seeing now in movies.
And some of these newer titles, and even just having a book that looks brand new, and like that feeling of you're the first one that gets to read it is really exciting. So
yeah.
I agree.
So another thing that we're doing is that as a all 3 schools, we have a K-12 vision. So we're really looking at the high school graduate, like what's the outcome we want.
Yeah.
And then we have to think about how we partner from grade level to grade level so that there's a seamless transition. So, for example, if you're in 5th grade and you graduate from 5th grade and you're going to go to middle school, what's the transition? What are those? How do we prepare those 6th grade teachers for the 5th grade kids coming in? And so we've been very intentional, and I'd like to see more work done in this area too. But we've been very intentional about having that transition take place.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that we're supporting our students is through our IXL data collection. It's not just getting data; it's also helping to remediate.
Yeah.
And so if a student leaves 5th grade, goes to 6th, but they have a 4th grade math level, we have a system that they sit at and they learn that can help them bring them up to 6th grade level.
Yeah. And it works where they're at, which is one of the things I love about that program is it meets the kids where they are. Like a lot of the times and being in the classrooms, I remember those times where you've got so many variations of abilities and understanding of a topic, and you can teach it until your face is blue. But if you don't have the ability to meet them where they're at and not knowing where they're at sometimes, like you can assess them as a pre before we learn this, let me see what you know. But if they're 2 grade levels behind, you actually don't know what skills they're missing out on. And that's where IXL fills that gap for the teachers, is it'll tell you specifically, this student is struggling in this specific concept. And then it'll give not just the students the strategies, but the teachers strategies to help really support and build so that we can get them caught up. Because that's ultimately what we want, right? Is our kids to be ready to move on to the real world once they're graduating.
Now we can be focused on the kids in a way that we haven't been able to in the past. We can know where they need to grow and how to support them to get them to where they need to go, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that is powerful. You don't get that everywhere because that takes real intention and
takes a lot of data to drive all that.
It does.
Yeah.
And for parents out there, as a parent myself, you kind of have the assumption that these schools have this synchronized plan all the way through, and it's just not the case. So the fact that we have this overall vision that's really driving all of this is really unique to Jefferson. And I guarantee you, if you started asking questions at larger school districts where you got multiple elementaries, multiple middle schools, they're probably just trying to get them on to the next grade. They're not really thinking about how does what we teach them in elementary affect middle school and get them to excel to their best potential.
You're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, you would think that would be more of a natural thing, but it really doesn't happen very often.
No.
And it's something that we're trying to do here that I think is different from other districts. So another great reason. The other, just before we switch gears here, because we're almost out of time, actually, the social emotional supports that we have in place for our students. We've created web pages. We have the Hope Squad. We can go into more of these details at maybe another talk. But the point is that we're doing a lot to support our kids social emotionally. We have our new student-based health center that we got over $500,000 in donations to create this, and working with our partners and just getting it up and off the ground now. But that's going to be something that really helps kids in our school district for years to come.
Agreed.
And then our facilities. I mean, if you haven't seen our gym at our high school, we have a new floor. We have
it
new
looks so
bleachers.
nice.
We've got new banners. We've got new paint. I mean, our kids, our basketball teams are playing in a beautiful space right now.
Good, which is great. And it's looking really professional and really nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's kind of some of the highlights of what's going on in brief here in our district that's showing that Jefferson is on the move. Becca, can you tell us just briefly a little bit about our campaign? Like what are some of the things we're doing to get that word out so that people can see Jefferson on the move?
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun aspects of my job, especially this year, is getting to work with WESD to really create the materials to help get that word out. So that's ultimately the goal of the campaign, is to share that information with our parents in various ways. But then also changing like the overall look of what our campaign looked like. So our Connected had a vision that we posted everywhere that was all over our website. And so we changed that, which is great. And it's very simplistic, but I love the overall look that we've got. It's not super busy. It's our school colors. It's very like flowing. And so we worked with WESD to create the signs that are going to go up and I think most of them are up by now in our schools. And some of those have pictures of our students, which is really great to highlight those, the kids, because that's what we're here for. And then we're also creating like little flyers that we're going to send out to community, just kind of really highlighting these things that we're talking about and the amazing stuff that we're doing with our school, because we want parents, both the ones that have their kids in the school system now, but then also the ones that can potentially decide to come to our school. We want them to know why Jefferson is the place to be. Why are we on the move? Why is putting their kids in our district the right choice? And so to help get that out there, we have to really start highlighting these. So not just the newsletter that we send out weekly, but also doing little like, did you know that Jefferson offers a school-based health center? Or did you know that we have alternative education programs? And those kind of highlights, we're going to start sending some things out just to post them and get the word out.
You mentioned that yesterday, because we have new housing coming in, some of those
right?
Compartments. And you talked about having flyers that go out that can say, did you know? And also potentially something going out in the city in mail, and so that everybody can kind of get an ongoing look at our campaign. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think that it's important because sometimes, like especially on social media platforms, you hear about the reasons why people pull their kids out of the public school. And I think it's important to know, like, why are we actually doing the great things? What are the great things that we're doing? And getting that message out is helpful and important because we are doing some really awesome things here in the district. And I think that we should be sharing that and celebrating it, not just with people in our schools and the ones that are in the trenches doing it with us, but like the people that are surrounding us. And supporting our schools in ways of like putting their kids here and helping out with volunteering and all of that stuff. So like we're a part of the Jefferson community. So this is why we rock.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself.
There's a lot of reasons for the Jefferson community, even for people who don't have kids in school, to be proud of what their school district is doing with their tax dollars.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's a real pride point for me as superintendent to see all of the great things that are happening. It's a team, it's everybody working together for kids, and parents should know that there's a lot of dedication, a lot of passion behind the offering your children an outstanding education. We could see that in the pandemic of how difficult it was to not have school, and now back in a routine again, just how kids are connected to their friends and their teachers. And it's just a wonderful place to be. So with that, we have to call it a day. And
It was a fast 20 minutes.
it was a fast 20 minutes for sure. And we always wonder, like, how are we going to fill 20 minutes? And it's like, oh, we need more time.
Yeah.
So that's great, though. Thank you so much for listening. And tune in next week for our next podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.